Hi, my name is Courtney Argus. I am here with my beautiful model, Alyssa. Today I'll be showing you how to do a purple smoky eye, along with how I do her brows and her contour and her... Okay, before I start any makeup on her, I always make sure I do a consultation with her. So basically in the consultation, my first question that I ask is what allergy she has to brands, brushes, any ingredients used in makeup products that she knows of. What's her skin type? Is she oily, dry, combination? And in her case, she is combination. She has a very oily T-zone and a very dry on the perimeter of her face. I'm gonna ask her what is her shade, what she thinks her shade is, so I can potentially shade match her, look at her facial features, and for her, she has strong cheekbones and a very strong jawline. And then her eye shape for her, I would say she is between like a round and an almond eye shape. Before I apply any makeup, I will be cleansing her skin of any oils or old makeup, old eyeshadow, old mascara. And I'm gonna be using the Garnier Skin Active Cleansing Water to do so. Just gonna put it on a little pad. Just gonna start cleansing her skin, going on all the perimeters of the face, and she said she is not really sensitive to any skin products, so this is one of her favorite products actually to use for cleansing her skin. So we're all good in that category. Gonna make sure to go over her eyes just to get all of that extra oil off and any old mascara. Her brows to get all of the brow products off. Step I will be doing is applying face primer. Now, since Alyssa has combination skin, she has an oily T-zone and a drier perimeter around her face, I will be using the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Face Primer in matte. Using a matte primer on her T-zone will help prevent products such as foundation, concealer from moving around in her T-zone and creasing up. So, it'll be a really good base. Just gonna apply it to her T-zone. I'm gonna take a sponge and kind of smudge it out a little bit. Primer. Since she does have combination skin, I put a matte primer in her T-zone, and then for the outer perimeters of her face, I'm going to be using kind of like a moisturizing primer, just so we don't have any dry patches whenever we put her foundation on and whenever we set with powder. So I'm literally just gonna take this all around her face. Outer portions of it. So the next step is going to be brows, and I'm going to be using the Milani Easy Brow. It's a very creamy formula. It gives me good precision on the beginnings of her brows. And with my brow technique today, I'm going to be using the 3 Golden Rules of How to Do Brows by Anastasia. So basically with this is the beginning of her brow. It's going to match up with her nostril. So with that, I'm just going to create a little line where her brow starts, and then the highest point of her brow, it is going to match up with the tip of her nose. So I'm going to mark that spot, and then for the end of her brow, it's going to match up kind of with this, the corner of her nostril. And I'm just going to mark a little line. For the beginning of her brow, I'm actually going to be using a different product. This is the CoverGirl Brow Pencil in Rich Brown, and this one has a kind of a smaller point to it, so I can get more of those defined brow hairs at the beginning of her brows. So I will be using that. And I did my 3 markings for the beginning, the highest point, and then the end of her brows using the 3 Golden Rules of Brows. And then for her brows, she doesn't want something super bold. She wants it to kind of be a little on the natural side. So with this, I'm going to be taking the very tip of it, and I'm just going to be creating small flick marks that are going to indicate tiny just to kind of build up the beginning of the brow. Using very light pressure just because I don't want it to be super bold. I want it to be really natural and blended at the beginning. So I'm just kind of flicking it up a little bit. And until it looks full, and I always go through and I spoolie just to even everything out. Make it appear softer. And then going in with my other brow product, just because she wants sort of that natural shape, I'm actually going to be pushing her brow hairs down, and I'm just going to be creating that brow, like the outer portion of her brow shape. So I'm now taking my Milani brow pencil, and I'm just gonna outline the outer portion of her brows using very small, light motions. So you're going to give her brow a little bit more depth. Going to spoolie it out. With her, she has a really good brow shape. Like I said, people with really good brow shapes, they are just missing that definition. So by filling them in and creating them, their small hairs, it gives the brow's appearance that it is fuller. So I'm going in with this CoverGirl Rich Brown again, and I'm just gonna go back through and I'm gonna create little marks. Kind of indicate small hairs. Do that all throughout her brow. In the next step to her brows, I'm going to be carving them out using some concealer on my little pad here. And with carving out, I'm not necessarily like reshaping them. I'm just making it to where there isn't any like jagged lines. I'm making it pretty sharp. So just gonna go underneath her brow. Just gonna kind of clean it up a little bit. Taking a flat synthetic brush. Okay, and the last step for her brows, I will be setting her brows with the Gimme Brow by Benefit. It's a brow pomade. So I'm going to set all of those hairs in place for the rest of the day. That's going to give her that brown tint. Just going to run it through her brows very lightly. Step, I am going to be concealing both of her eyelids with concealer. I'm taking a concealer that is 2 to 3 shades lighter than her actual skin tone. So I'm going to get a flat synthetic brush and apply the concealer to her eyelids. This is going to give me a nice even base whenever I go to put eyeshadow on, just to cancel out any redness on her eyes. So I have a nice even base. To blend that out, I'm going to be taking my wedge sponge. Just gonna be patting that out, getting it as smooth as possible and as dry as possible. This is also a matte concealer, so it's gonna help with her oiliness. So she is not going to be oily on her eyelids to where it would make her eyeshadow crease. Set that concealer to where it's not so tacky or sticky. I'm going to be taking some Coty Airspun translucent powder, and I'm going to be setting that right on her eyes. Moving on to her eyes and her eyeshadow, I'm going to be taking the Modern Renaissance palette by Anastasia, and I'm going to be doing a purple smoky eye with kind of a glitter cut crease. So the first shade I'm going to start with would be Warm Taupe, just because it's kind of got like a purple brownish undertone to it. And I'm just going to be applying that to the outer corner and working that color into her crease. And I'll pick up her eyelid a little bit just to get more in depth in that crease. And this is going to kind of act as my transition shade. Just because it's kind of got more of a purplish undertone to it. And it's not super dark. I don't know why I did that though. Alright, and then the next thing I will be taking, the next shade I will be taking is the Blonde Fresco. This one is a really light purple, which is going to be a great transition into that dark purple. So I'm just going to be taking that on her outer corner of her eye and working my way in using very light circular motions as well as sweeping motions. Again, I'm going to pick up her eye a little bit and work that color into her crease. Taking a smaller kind of tampered brush, I'm going to be dipping into Venetian Red just to kind of warm it up a little bit. And I'm going to be placing that right on her outer portion of her eye. Just going to be tapping it right in there. Not going to blend out just yet. Tap it on the outer portion of her eye. This is going to make the eye appear to have more depth and dimension, and this is one of my techniques that I do. I don't necessarily dip into a color and just start blending right away. I like to pat it on the eye and then blend it. Just because I like to build up my colors before I blend out so it's not all overwhelming. Taking a little bit of that into her crease. Then I'm going to be going back in with that same fluffy brush, and I'm going to be dipping a little bit into the same color. I'm going to tap off my extra, and then I'm just going to be blending that on the outer portion of her eye. The last shade I will be dipping into to put on the outer portion of her eye to give her eye even more dimension is going to be Love Letter, and it's this really dark, intense purple that's going to give me that purple smoky eye that I want. So with this, I'm going to be just, again, patting it on the outer portion of her eye to give that eye more dimension and more depth. Kind of using small sweeping motions just to blend it out a little bit, because this is kind of a fluffier brush, but it's a little bit more dense. And I'm gonna drag it out just a little bit, not too much. Back into that color, and I'm going to be lifting her eye up just a tad bit, and I'm going to run it into that crease. I'm using very light sweeping motions as well as small circular motions to blend this out. Taking a smaller, more compact brush that is a little dense, I'm just going to be lightly dipping into Cypress Umber. This shade is very bold. I don't want to completely overweigh the look with this brown, so I'm just going to lightly tap into it, tap off the excess. And I'm just going to put this close to her lash line. Gonna give that smoky effect, and it has like a dark maroonish undertone to it, so it does tie in to the look. Then I'm going to be taking one last time, I'm going to be dipping into that Vanadium Red, and I'm just going to be tapping that onto her outer portion of her eye, blending it out just to give that warmth back in there. Next step I will be doing is I will be cutting her crease again using that same flat synthetic brush. I'm gonna have her close. And now for cut creases, you can do many things to do it. So a lot of people like to put the concealer just on their eyelid right here, have them look up, and that creates that line, but it makes me nervous. I don't like doing it. So what I do is basically I look at where their eye folds. So a lot of people, for Alyssa here, she has a very deep eye socket to where I can actually see where her eye folds. And I kind of marked that out by the shadow that I put in her crease. So just gonna follow that line and cut her crease. Sorry. So how I like doing this is I like to just lay the tip of my brush down onto her crease and pull down, just so it creates that harsh line that we want. Soften up that cut crease on the outer portion of her eye. What I like to do is take my finger and I smudge it inwards, just to get some of that excess eyeshadow over that concealer and blend it out so there's no harsh lines. And whenever I go back in to darken up the inner portion of her eye, it's not going to stick to that concealer. Back into Love Letter, which is that really rich purple color. And tapping off the excess, I'm just gonna put it right on the outer portion of her eye and kind of work it inwards over that concealer a little bit, but not all over the eye, Just maintaining it on the outer portion of her eye. Smoking it inward a little bit using circular motions. Alright, then to deepen it up a little bit more and give her eye more dimension, I'm going to be dipping back into Cypress Umber, which is that chocolatey brown. Going to be placing that on the outer portion of her eye. And this one I'm not going to go too crazy with because I don't want it to be overbearing to where it takes the purple out of focus. So just going to be lightly patting that in to just draw in that smokiness. And then taking the shade Vermeer, I'm going to be packing that on the cut crease that I just carved out. On there, this is going to give that nice, beautiful reflectiveness to her eye. For the next step on her eyes, I'm going to be lining her eyes. I'm not going to be doing a wing liner because she doesn't want anything dramatic. She just wants a simple line just to make it look smoky. So I'm going to be taking our liner, and what I like to do is I pull up on the eye like this just so I don't have any wrinkles in the area where I want to put the liner, because when you have wrinkles it makes it crack whenever they open and close their eyes throughout the day. So pull up their eyes. And then I'm just making a simple line. Gonna keep it as close to the waterline as possible. Next, I will be putting lashes on her. And for this, I have my little lash tweezers. And I already have glue on her lashes. But for me, I don't necessarily like using tweezers at first. I place them with my fingers, and then I go in and I place to her eyelet, her line. So I have it placed in the center. Just gonna take tweezers and place them. Gonna make sure to pull up on them to make sure they do not lay flat to her eye. Okay, so I applied her lashes, and to make them even more voluminous, I'm going to be taking a Volume Mascara by Essence on a spoolie. Now with mascara, a lot of people like to do it with the eye half open, but I'm gonna have her close. And I'm gonna take my spoolie and I'm kind of gonna twist it. Just to get the tips of the lashes with mascara. Same on the other eye. And then I'm gonna go up. I'm just gonna roll my spoolie up to connect her natural lashes with her false lash. Moving on to a foundation, I'm going to be taking the Maybelline Fit Me in the shade Classic Ivory at 120. This is kind of like a semi-dewy matte foundation. So I'm gonna be taking that on her. This is her shade. And this one for her isn't going to be too full coverage, just because she likes her freckles to pop a little bit. Taking soft patting motions on her face to evenly distribute that product. For foundation, I'm going to be applying concealer under her eyes, on her forehead, the bridge of her nose, and on her chin. Now for her, it's not so much of wanting to cover up eye bags or anything, it's just for lightening purposes, so I won't be doing too much concealing. This is going to be 2 to 3 shades lighter than her natural skin tone just to give that brightening effect throughout her T-zone and to give her face a little bit more dimension. To set that concealer, I'm using the Maybelline Fit Me in the shade 110 Porcelain. So this is going to be a little lighter than, the concealer that we put down. But that's just going to add that brightening effect to her T-zone. I'm just going to apply this everywhere that I applied the concealer, just so nothing creases and nothing moves because her T-zone is oily. And the next step is going to be contour. Now for contour with her face, she has a pretty good cheekbone and she's got a really sharp jawline. So what I like to do with contour, if I'm not sure of where to place that, I always follow the earlobe down. And the earlobe down should meet typically to the corner of her lip, because that's where it's really, whenever you're creating that contrast, that's what's going to really suck in. It looks like it's going to be sucked in. So where that hollow part is in her cheek from her earlobe, if you feel that hollow part, that is where I'm going to be placing my contour at. And then where that hollow part kind of protrudes to where it goes up is where I will be placing that highlight at. So for contour for her, I'm going to be doing kind of a cooler tone contour. I'm going to be placing it, not necessarily going to be blending it out just yet. I just want it there for the placement. So I'm following that earlobe down, and I'm going to about midway to right here, because we don't want to take it too far down because that just doesn't look right. And I'm just going to be placing that right in the hollows of her cheekbone. Like I said, I'm not blending that out just yet. And for me, what I like to do whenever I place my contour is I like to blend up with it, so it goes further in the cheek, a darker shade. Now I'm going to be very light with this because it is a darker shade, and I'm just going to be putting it right on this part to where it's the most hollow at, which is back here. So with contour, I don't want to put like a straight dark color all throughout her cheeks because it appears as if it's like a line. So I need a little bit more dimension back by her ear, which I'm going to be dipping into this dark one, and I'm just going to be using circular motions to kind of give it a little bit of a warmth. I'm not going to be going too much, not going to be putting too much of this on her cheeks. I'm just focusing it right on this corner. Good. Dipping in a few times, focusing it right back on this corner, using circular motions. And for this brush, I am using an angle brush. If you can tell, it's kind of slanted a little bit, so it really gets into that cheekbone. To highlight the face, I'm going to be taking the Aurora Glow Kit by Anastasia. And the two shades that I absolutely love and I love to cocktail is the Eclipse and Luna. So these two shades are going to work perfectly for her skin because she doesn't really have a dark skin tone. So these are going to appear more on her skin. Just taking a little bit of Luna and dipping into Eclipse. I'm going to be placing that right where this cheek kind of protrudes. And I'm not going to focus so much down here because I don't want to bring attention to the under eye. I'm just basically placing it right here. It's the C area. So I'm taking a fluffy brush. Sure I don't go down too far with that highlight. Alright, and then to give that icy, glowy effect for her highlight, I'm going to be taking a Stila highlight in the shade Brilliance. Now, this is a very warm highlight. It definitely doesn't come on the face as warm as it appears in the packaging. It's very icy, and it doesn't have like a yellow undertone or anything like that. It's very blush. I'm going to be taking a blush by Benefit, and it's not too rosy, not too pink. It's kind of like this peachy color, so it is perfect for her skin tone. I love it myself. It's one of my favorite blushes. I'm taking a light patting motion and just blending it in with that contour a little bit. Sometimes I like to go crazy with blush, add it to the forehead just to give that youthful look and bring a little bit of warmth to the face. Next step, I want to smoke out her bottom lash line. So I'm going to be taking some of that Love Letter shade. Just going to have her look up. And I'm just going to be smoking that bottom lash line out. This is going to help that smoky eye appear to be more smoky by adding this color to her bottom lash line. For inner corner, because we always need a good inner corner highlight, I'm going to be taking some Vermeer on a flat synthetic brush. Let's tap off some of the excess. I'm going to have her look up. Just going to be placing that inner corner highlight. Such a pretty shade. Now for lips, I have the BH Cosmetics Nude Lips of 28 colors, and I mixed this kind of taupey lip with this lighter one. So she wants a kind of a nude purple, and I'm applying it with a flat, small synthetic brush. Go on the outer portions of her lips first, just to get that shape. Right, and then for more dimension on her lips, I'm going to be taking this lighter shade, and I'm just going to be placing that in the center of her lips. I'm gonna grab your lips together. And then the last step to the makeup is setting spray, and I'm using the e.l.f. Matte Magic Mist Inset Setting Spray. So go ahead and close. This is my beautiful finished look on my model, Alyssa.